Healthy Lifestyle with Lorianne and
Vince Perrotta.
I am Lorianne and he's Vince. Our goal here today at Healthy Lifestyle is to inspire, educate, and empower you to fulfill a healthy, educated, emotional, spiritual, and physical life so you too can feel empowered to live the life you have always wanted and dreamed. Welcome to the show and hello to you, Vince. How are you?
I'm very good, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing good. It's beautiful out. It's spring. I'm so happy.
It really is. And your background there is beautiful. What a great view.
Thank you. Isn't it great? And that we're facing each other in studio and you have a sunset and I don't. It's amazing.
Well, sun's setting on me, but rising for you. So we're the perfect complement.
That is a perfect compliment. And you're always ahead of the game. So look at you. You're always the trailblazer.
Very kind.
So today, why don't you talk about what we're talking about today?
So I find myself, lots of people are kind of raising the topic of how hard it is to find someone. Mm-hmm. And part of that is, if you kind of think a little bit before that, is how important is it to, have people that are working and satisfied, right? Because turnover is kind of it's a real challenge. I mean, do you hear that? You coach a lot of folks. Are you finding people, talking about, hey, I got to keep my employees kind of thing?
It's so weird because the languaging is a little different. The languaging is, I'm having a problem finding employees. I'm having a problem finding talent. And I was like, well, if you have that problem, then what we need to do is reverse engineer it, as you would say, reverse engineer that and look at the fact that we need to work on our retention. First of all, retention is less costly than hiring and onboarding. Right. And why do people leave, Vince? Do they leave for money?
No, studies show that it's not about money. People leave for lots of other reasons, which is unfortunate because while money is important, but it's kind of like what really bubbles them over is the money. But am I happy, fulfilled, satisfied? I mean, do you find that? What's the feedback you get from people that you speak to?
Yeah, my feedback is they get intoxicated by the money, but that's the thing that pulls them over the fence. That's the last consideration, right. But that they're thinking about it at all is because they're not happy. And we need to create an environment that makes our employees and helps our employees have an environment that's safe and happy. And I'm not talking kumbaya happy. I just mean that they have an opportunity to grow themselves. And that's why you see a lot of businesses bringing in people like ourselves, which are coaches, to come and, speak to the employees and find out what's important to them. And what I do find, especially for people under 40, what's really, really important is that the company has give back. And if they don't see that, they feel like they're out of alignment. Give back meaning the company donates to another organization, or the company, like one of the companies I used to work for, we started this program where they used a lot of paper. They wanted to reduce their carbon footprint. So we went out and literally found out how much money we needed to spend on trees. And we had a replanting program that we worked with the Arbor Association to offset the carbon of all the paper we use while we were trying to reduce paper and get more online, more digital.
I think that's a great example. I know that it's not about the thing you're doing, but that you are doing a thing, right? Yeah. So in other words, it's that commitment and demonstration of it. And I like your example there, reduce your carbon footprint. Another one that I've heard is the ability to have maybe sometimes a half a day to volunteer and do something. Yeah. That also, it's a way to give back, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. One of my companies, they do Habitat for Humanity, and they pay the employee for the day, but they go and volunteer and they help build a house. And then they're so happy to be back at their desk because their hands hurt, their bodies hurt, they're bruised. Some cases they've hit themselves with the hammers. It's so funny when they come back because it's like, oh my God, this is a really hard thing to do. And they love sitting at their desk after that. So that's really good for employee retention because they're like, I love my job.
That's another way of looking. I'm gonna add a little color to that story as well. I actually did that.
I did too.
In a previous life, and was a bunch of us that volunteered, and we did this Habitat for Humanity. And what I loved about the day the most was it was the end of the day, and there was a bus that pulled up, and it was taking us all back. And three of us were working on literally putting up a fence around the property for the new homeowner. And they said we had to go. And we're like, we had like 3 sections of fence or 4 sections of fence. We're like, we just need another half hour. And they were like, we got to go. We got the bus, and it's rented. Anyway, the ending of the story was people got back off the bus, helped the guys that I was working with, the 3 of us, and we finished the fence. They're like, we can just give us 15 minutes. And the vice president of the company goes, I don't care what you need. Take your time. I love that you guys cared enough about that. And we really felt great. It did a few things. One, it was a great demonstration of our spirit and commitment. And the second was the camaraderie that we built. This happened over 10 years ago. I still remember it. It still makes me feel really good because we didn't leave it unfinished. We were doing it for somebody that we'd never meet. Really liked that.
And it's team building. I mean, it's a great opportunity for team building to learn and really respect what other people do. Yep. And now when you look at a house, you're like, oh, I know what that took to do it. Because, they gave me a power tool. I'm like, what are you, nuts? I'm not doing that. I show up with my high heel work boots and, my nails, and everybody's like, what are you going to do here? And I was hammering with the rest of them. I was talking about why they didn't have, the power hammers. I was like, why don't we have those as my back is aching? But it really gives you a lot of respect. It's team building. It's really good for the company. And it also makes people feel valuable. And the feeling I had, I'm sure you had the same one, but I'll let you talk about yours. The feeling I had knowing that I was helping another family in a very, they'll never meet me, they'll never meet you, but knowing that I was able to do that, it's addictive. You just want to go out and help other people. And honestly, there's so many good people out there. I have to tell the story, by the way, just to get off topic for a second, but you reminded me of this. I take a walk with Anthony at our local park, and these 3 people walked up to me, and they're holding this wallet, and they said, we found this wallet. And we were like, it's not ours. And they were like, that's not our question. I was like, oh, okay. It has a building on it. And I said, nobody's in the building. And they went, oh, okay. Do you think we should call the police? And I said, well, that's a good idea, but I'll tell you what I did when I found the wallet once is I looked in the wallet and I found their license, and I actually drove to their house because we got Google, and the person's house, they said, oh, I never thought of that. They pulled the license, and it was right in local to where I live, and actually not too far from where they live, which was really convenient. And they said, you know what, we're going to drive there. But the thing that was heartwarming to me is when he opened the wallet, they said there's money in it. When he opened the wallet, Vince, there was a couple $100s in there, and they wanted to get it back to them. I was like, there are good people. I'm getting all teary. There are good people in this world. And I wanted to point that out and say, thank you. I don't know their names. If I took them, I would be announcing them now, but thank you to those good humans who did the right thing. And, their parents are going to be proud. Their higher power is proud that they went back and they gave that back to that person who's probably freaking out looking for it.
Well, that's pretty amazing, because when you were telling me that, what came back to me was my neighbor passed away. There was an older couple across the street, and my neighbor passed away. And at his funeral, the first time I had been to a Jewish burial, and at the burial, the rabbi explained how, come up, please throw a shovel of dirt on, and that it was one of the greatest things you could do to help somebody as they lay to their final resting place. And it is a gesture of kindness. It can never be repaid, which is the nicest thing that you can do. And I thought of that same thing as you were saying that, right? That couple doesn't know with a gesture of kindness by returning that. Maybe they put it in the, mailbox, just left it for the family to find. But the point of the story is to do that nice thing, like Habitat for Humanity. I'll never meet those people. You meet those people. But we help somebody. It's a gesture that can't be repaid. I think that's the greatest thing in the world, because there's nothing tied to, you're getting nothing. You're getting nothing. It's about doing nice things.
It's so true. Well, you do get something. You get the fulfillment of knowing you're doing the right thing and you're helping another human out. And that if one day perhaps it happens to you, somebody else will have that good heart and do it back to you. So it's very reciprocal. Not that you do it for those reasons, but you do get, I think, a little bit of that out of that. Right. There's something that everybody can do. I actually learned this from my good friend, Paul Saladino. He's a wonderful human being. And I'll never forget that he does this event every year. And it's a give back event, but he had this tree, and on the tree he had these cards, and you would give a gift to that card to that person on that card. And I love that. But the other thing was, he says, and if you can't do that, because it's a lot, he said, just do a little minor thing, which is, and now I do it all the time and I love it, it's kind of fun, is you buy a lottery ticket and you go and you find a random car and you just put it in their windshield. Well, I did one day, and it's awesome. It's all, and you have to drive away. You can't stay. You have to drive away. So you never know the outcome. We don't know if somebody wins. Somebody could win. It's random. So one day I go do that and I put it in the windshield, and I see the person go in. I put it in the windshield and I get in my car. I'm driving away and I see the person come out, and I just break the rules and I stop my car and I'm looking in my rearview mirror. I'm like stalking this guy. I'm looking in my rearview mirror. And as he's walking to the car, you see his body just change. His whole physicality changes, and he's like, son of a, because he thinks he has a ticket now in his windshield. And I'm like, oh no, he's upset. And
give him the feeling you were thinking.
I was not giving that feeling. And then all of a sudden he sees, you pick it up, he sees it. You could see just by I wasn't close enough to see his face, but you could see there's confusion because now he's looking around like, what the? And then I left because I didn't want to know if they won or not. But it just changed their life. It's like holding a door open. It's those little things in life that we can do to just say, hey, we're here. We see you. You're being seen and heard. And it's a really nice thing to do. Going back to the Habitat for Humanity, this good deed that this group of young people did. It's just so beautiful to go do that. So if you're inspired, it costs a couple of bucks and a little bit of your time. And if you're out anyway, that's when I do it. When I'm out, I pick up a couple and I keep them in my car. And then periodically I'll just do that in a random place. So it's a lot of fun and it gives me a lot of giggles. So, but back to retention, it's really important for many, many people to work for a company who have those values. And that, Vince, that goes back to the mission, vision, value part of a company that you work for. The company needs to resonate with your values. Do you find that too? Because I know you were very selective about the company you currently work for.
I was, and that was a critical part of my decision. Actually, it was at the top of my list. Because, my career took a really good turn and I had a really nice opportunity, sometimes that bend in the road in life. And the most important thing was a company whose value system I aligned with and believed in. And I was very fortunate because where I landed, I have seen multiple times that I made the right decision. And I think people are doing that more often than not. Yeah. And I think though the difference is, and I would say, because I interviewed with a number of companies, they were the ones who articulated it. Everything that I read, everyone that I spoke to said those, that, like, in other words, everybody spoke from that same sheet of music, and I saw them live it now, being part of that. So I was going to ask you, when you're with somebody, how do you help your clients? Because it's one thing to have the vision. That's really great. But how do you help them live it and articulate it so that it's part of their culture and it's ingrained and people see it? Because that's, again, how to avoid people leaving? They're part of a culture. They're part of something. They're happy and they find personal satisfaction as well as professional. How do you do that with the folks that you work with? Yeah,
so that's a really great question. But you've heard me talk about foundational and how I work with foundational structure, how important that foundation is. Well, part of that foundation is your mission, vision, and values. So we spend an inordinate amount of time figuring out what are the values. We already know what the vision is. We know what you want to do. Your mission, you know what you want to do. We'll get clarity on that. But I want to know what your values are. I want you to know. Most of the time, we're not asked that question. So when you look at your values and you figure out what it is, be it accountability, be it respect, whatever those values are, we put them down. And then we use them as a litmus test. So when you're having issues retaining people, we need to look within ourselves and say, okay, what is the company doing that's creating an environment that people are not staying? Let's go back to the litmus test of our mission, vision, and value. Are we staying in our values? Mm-hmm. Are we not delivering what we promised we were going to deliver? Because that's what I see a lot, Vince, with my clients is that's what's happening. I'm seeing them sway away from their values, and therefore it becomes out of alignment with the very people who made the choice to work for the company. So we look at one of the things first things I look at with retention issues is, are we staying in line with our values? Are our words and actions? And truth is words plus action, not one or the other. It's both. That's truth.